again. We're just getting started to go on air here as well. Very good.
Is that fine?
I'd say you're fine. You maybe ever so slightly help, but yeah. Oh, but we don't want to block you out either. Right. Good morning, 11:15 this Saturday morning, the 3rd of July, and it's Chatechesis time with you, Father Eamonn, now at the microphone, and Róisín, good morning, you're with me too.
Good morning, Father. Good morning, all.
Very lovely to have you here with us now too, and hope we can be heard loud and clear. I'm seeing the little green light on the video here bopping up and down, so we're on Facebook and YouTube live as well, so wave and a shout out, and
Hi, everybody.
do drop a text and all the other things if you're watching later on even as well, to get in touch with us. And you know the drill, and you probably know the numbers off by heart. You know, at least run them off by heart anyway, Róisín.
A Dublin number. If you want to ring Dublin, it's 014123456.
There you are. She doesn't need to look up her phone for the number. How about that? And the text and WhatsApp number is 0894672000. Just pop in a text there and share with us indeed your own story, journey, item of faith, maybe perhaps a little word of encouragement, and indeed your own questions. We always like to hear from you. You know that this is Chatechesis, so interactive is the way we love it here. Now, the Feast of St. Thomas, the Apostle today. What do you reckon, Róisín?
Oh, it's wonderful. Actually, I was surprised that he didn't believe, unless I see and put my hands in his wounds and things, even though he knew Jesus so well.
Just move that up a little bit there.
That's,
yeah, you think...
We all have that lack of faith from time to time, don't we, Father?
You'd think, having sort of travelled around with the Lord for 3 years, yes, right? He saw the deaf hear, the dumb speak, the lame walking, lepers cleansed, cripples being cured, the blind could see, walking on the water, multiplication of loaves and fish, demons being cast out, and raising from the dead. Like, what more does he want? You'd be saying to yourself, would you come on?
But it shows human nature, Father.
It does.
Yeah, it's
very interesting. And that the interesting thing we learned here before too is that doubt and faith are correlative. They're part of the same thing.
Yes.
You can't have faith unless you are able to doubt.
Right.
That because you're able to doubt, you're also able to express faith.
To believe.
The two go together,
Yeah.
So if we had no doubts and you knew that you knew that you knew, then you there's no need for faith.
Right. Oh, that's very well put, Father. I never realised that before.
Because if it's all there in your face and I don't need to have faith anymore. I get it. I see it.
Yes.
Ta-da! It's
Yes.
it's right. But because we are creatures who are capable of doubt, it also means then that we are capable of faith. It's the positive of doubt, if you like.
Yes.
So
choose to believe, Father.
Correct. You're bang on, Róisín, because it's an act of the will. An act of the will. You have to decide to believe. Now, it's helped by emotions, I suppose.
Oh, of course.
If you feel good about it.
And seeing, you witness what happened to poor Jesus, and that, So that. How could we have, if we had seen that, Father, how could we have reacted,
Sure, and that should move the heart at some level to be able to move the will by way of faith. Doubt no longer, but believe. And one of Thomas's problems too, I always put this to the students in school, was that, the Lord appeared and showed himself, and he saw and he touched and he's everything else. But how did he work it out after the Lord left? The Lord obviously disappeared then, and now you're stuck because he's not there anymore.
Well, that would have increased his faith in him, though, Father, to know that Jesus was there for us all and he could come when we call him.
And this is probably the point in the end, that, he still had to have faith afterwards.
Oh, of course.
Because he didn't have the Lord sort of next to him to say, well, look, actually, here you go. Let me show you.
Yes.
So
he did great work after, Father. He went all around.
He did.
India and all the, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He did fantastic work.
Yes, so, Thomas, and my kind of argument there, my thinking there is that Thomas didn't really have that much of an advantage over us in some ways, yes, he saw and he finally did believe, but in a way, maybe it's a little bit embarrassing for him afterwards that he didn't believe the way he maybe ought to have believed.
Yes.
And, you know, he got nicknamed then Doubting Thomas, you know,
Yes. He wasn't there when Jesus appeared to the others at one.
That's
what
right.
it was,
At the Sunday of the resurrection,
Yes.
you know, they were all in the
Yes.
upper room, but he was missing.
Yes.
And the Lord appeared. And of course, they were all dumbfounded as well. And they were like, you know, have you anything to eat here? And they gave him a piece of grilled fish, you know.
Yes.
They didn't have scones that time, so grilled fish did. And so they saw him eat, and that, you know, they said, okay, he's not a ghost. This is real, you know. And so Thomas, I suppose, then he does stand in for us really, and I suppose maybe stood in a little bit for those who even saw Christ if they still had any doubts.
Yes.
And like I was saying, that's a pretty strong statement, you know, unless, like, you can imagine the hands on the hips, unless I see and can put my finger in the hole.
Yes. Yeah, that was a really strong statement. Yes.
Which actually strikes me as kind of graphic in more ways, because traditionally we have the picture of Jesus crucified, the nail is in the palm of the hand, you know.
Yes.
And we know, I mean, physically it doesn't take much to figure out that nail couldn't support the weight of a human body.
So
Just
they
to
say it
survive.
was back here. Yes.
Yeah, they said it was in the wrist, that we have
Yes.
5 bones there. Are they the metacarpals or something? And there's a space in between those that the Romans knew exactly what they were doing, that you could, the weight of a
Oh my
body
gosh,
could be.
and that's how they did it.
And yeah, horrific, really horrific. And science now tells, medicine tells that through this point in the arm, they're right, I'm trying to show the camera as well, up the centre of the arm, there's a nerve that runs up through the main nerve.
Right.
And so to actually get pierced there is not just the hole in the hand, but it strikes at the nerve. It's excruciatingly painful, and that's why that we use that word, because you know the way if you have a nerve in your tooth, it's called agony, or any other kind of a nerve, but to have a nail through a nerve and to have to move, it
And
just
hanging
must have
and the
been
weight and that, the
absolute,
suffering
just
Jesus went through for us all.
shocking torture. And interestingly, from the Shroud of Turin, another interesting fact about the hole in the hand is that, again, it's been medically sort of researched that if you do have put a hole through there, the thumb kind of locks in here. Whatever way you hit the nerve, the thumb locks in, and that on the Shroud of Turin, the thumb kind of locks in across the palm. On the Shroud of Turin, you look at the 2 hands, the imprints of the hands which are across the Lord, across his waist there, like face down, I think. But the 2 thumbs are not visible. All you see is the 2, the 4 lots of fingers on either hand, crossed as they are. And proof again that, like, why would an artist, if he was going to fake something like that, how would he even think of doing that?
No.
So the thumbs are invisible, and the reason the thumbs are not visible on the imprint on the shroud,
they were stuck in from the torture.
Notice that the nail had to be through the wrist, you know. So here's Thomas saying he wants to put his finger in there, and I'm like, hey, you won't, you will not go near it.
It shows you how strong thinking he was, Father, you know. His faith was shook when Jesus died, so I'd imagine he was really, really strong in carrying the faith then after.
And it must have said something about the wound in the Lord's side as well. He said, I kind of put my hand in his side. I mean, he must have seen this, you know, that it was like a gaping wound.
They stuck the sword into him.
So, yeah. So Thomas to say something like that is pretty strong, to say the least. And is a measure perhaps of his doubt. And I was going to say cynicism, but I didn't want to use that word really. But just he had a real sense of, you know, I just absolutely don't accept this. No way. This is how strongly I feel about it. You know.
Maybe Father, he didn't think that Jesus would have been crucified. Maybe he thought Jesus would have stopped it all before Jesus offered himself up for us. You know.
Sure, and that's what the high priest, wasn't it, said or maybe the thief, wasn't it, from the cross, the bad thief. He said, if you are the Christ, well, you know, save yourself and save us as well while you're at it. Come down off the cross and we'll believe you. I think that's depicted in Mel Gibson's movie too, if I'm not mistaken. The high priest sort of rides across on a donkey. You kind of see it, it's in all his robes. And he kind of looks up and, you know, if you are the Christ, well, come down off the cross. I think that's or some of the other characters maybe. But again, it's the same, that idea. Why don't you save yourself if you
human
want?
nature, not belief.
So, very interesting. And when this would come up in class in school, my thing always, some of the students say, Father, can you perform a miracle for us there, that, and then we'll believe, show us, and we'll believe.
Our children are brilliant, Father.
Alone, I'd be throwing my eyes to heaven, lads. Do you want a miracle? And you know how that conversation used to go. I'd say, okay, what miracle do you want? Father, can you make the school disappear? We want to go home already. Thanks.
Oh, that's fantastic. Our children are fantastic, Father. They're a gift.
How dare you ask such a thing? That's I'm here for it today. That's what you're here for. I'm not going to make the school disappear. But I used to just tease them, just follow that whole argument on and say, look, okay, supposing I did something super that, made you gasp, as a kind of magician does. That's it, you're still stuck. You still need to believe, was it a trick? Or was it actually something truly miraculous? And you still end up scratching your head. And even if you do accept that this is something miraculous, well, tough, you still have to believe. I can bring you to the water. I cannot make you drink. So that's where that conversation used to go in the classroom. That look, I'm not a magician here. I'm not here to perform tricks for your entertainment. So when we're tempted in that direction by way of doubt, it's good to just sit ourselves down and have a good chat with ourselves and say, oh, hang on a second. Whoa. And as you were saying, actually, at the cup of tea there, or was it Bernie was saying below, Róisín, I think it was Bernie preaching us one of our homilies there, that you have the gift of life, you have your family, you have all these blessings, which are miracles every day.
That's the truth. That's the truth, Father.
What more do you want? You know what I mean? That we only have to simply open our eyes and with the eyes of faith, I suppose, really, in the end, isn't it?
And trusting in God, Father, really. You might decide you want this, that, and the other, but I'm more inclined to say, all right, Lord, you direct me. Whatever's the best to happen.
Yeah. Whatever you see fit, and I accept that then, says your will.
Yes.
And I suppose to begin to practice this idea, I mean, what do they call it? Mindfulness, but I would call it maybe spiritual mindfulness if you want. The gracefulness might be better. Nicer word. To say, look, everything is a grace. It's a blessing from God. I mean, you woke up this morning, you have a bed, you have a roof over your head, you have family around you. Thank God for the health that you do enjoy. You have neighbours, you have friends, you have community, you have freedom. You're not waking up to shelling or gunfire outside your door. There's food on the supermarket shelves. John sent in a message there a while ago from, he's a priest working in Tigray. Tigray's in Ethiopia. And that in Tigray is his father Chatechesis, his name, a Salesian working out there. That John was obviously asking how it was. He said, no, things are dreadful. He says, this is the 5th day in Tigray that everything is cut off. No access to the bank, to telephones, electricity. Every road that goes into Tigray is blocked. It's very painful. And there's murder and mayhem going on every day. It's just a severely dangerous place at the moment. So think of the people of Tigray. We lift them up to the Lord in prayer in Ethiopia there. And not just there, because our conference last week with the World Family, the staff of Radio Maria in Belarus asked for prayers, because again, there are people being arrested there. There's kind of civil uproar there, and Catholics are being targeted, particularly too in Belarus. And when that message came into the group, Venezuela added their voice. They said, look, things are pretty miserable in Venezuela at the minute too. It's just the whole social, their building where the radio station is kind of up for grabs. They're worried that the landlords are going to pull out and it'd just be a disaster for them. So listen, when you hear stories like that, just count all those blessings.
Absolutely.
Count the blessings. Food on the table, family, faith, friends, promise of eternal life. That God is good. Sure we have trials, sure we have, our faith is challenged. Amen to that, it certainly is. But it's what gives us hope and assurance, and especially with kind of the mess that seems to be going on around us at times. Things just seem very uncertain,
Yes.
we might say,
Yes.
the what ifs and the virus and all these other things, and then the economic effect of all of what's been going on the last couple of years, and so on. And the list you can big long laundry list there if you want. So it's not surprising that we might doubt or might,
Yes.
hesitate.
Yes, and the closing up of the churches too, Father, and all that we went through. And now they're going to put back the confirmations and the communions.
Correct.
Because my little grandson is looking forward to making it in August.
Okay, gosh. Well, please God, that'll come around. We were kind of looking on the bright side of that last night. The Pioneer showed us, they were certainly the confirmations, you've got a little bit more time to drive home the value of the pledge and that promise. And the idea, the point I was making was that, okay, I know it's not a happy situation that First Communions and confirmations are postponed, but there's something about a postponed gratification that's actually kind of healthy for us.
Oh, yes.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Kind of, when can I get to heaven now, please? I just don't have to go through all this grief. Do you mind if I can just arrive now? And no, that's not how it works. We wait in joyful hope.
Please God, Father, yes, that this virus will not take off again.
Correct. Or anything else that might happen along, because it's likely that other drama will come our way. There's no era without its drama. But like the rock of our faith really is what we fall back on. That's stick to that at least anyway. And that's why I find it is a great gift just to say this to you and to preach this at you, whatever it takes. Doubt no longer,
but believe. Absolutely.
Trust in me. There's many rooms in my Father's house. If there weren't, I wouldn't have told you.
Yes.
But I'm going there to prepare a place. So looking forward to that. So I keep saying I'm looking for the quiet room for the first half a millennium.
Well, you deserve it,
just to
Father.
calm down.
You definitely deserve it.
And then, I'll join the party then when I'm ready, if that's all right. But, to think of it in that light and to kind of to cheer up that life is so relatively short. I mean, where have all the years gone, Róisín? Here we are in July.
Fly by, Father.
Where did 2021 suddenly half go? Somebody didn't tell me. Stop the bus.
Oh, my goodness.
It just does.
And every day is a blessing, really,
Correct. So that's what our faith teaches us. So no matter what, doubt no longer, but believe. I was just looking up on St. Thomas here, my buke, the Oxford Dictionary of Saints. I'm not sure that it adds a huge amount. It's nice, he put some nice things in here, that in art, the most usual representation of St. Thomas is his incredulity. There's a lovely oil painting of Thomas kind of peering into the hole in Christ's side, and he's putting his hand in, the Lord's kind of lifted the
garment.
And he's kind of looking in, and it's like, Thomas, it's enough just to see the man, So art does have some lovely representations of him indeed. Actually, just a quick shout out, if I may, now that I'm on the subject of art. Tomorrow at 4:30, Aoife Godwin's coming to start a new series on iconography.
Oh, wonderful, yes.
Understanding and appreciating icons.
Yes.
So do listen in, do please join us for that. It should be a lovely show, and please God, we'll have images to accompany Aoife's conversation with you. We'll put them up on our Facebook page or whatever social media we can, and maybe with the podcast afterwards as well, we'll put the images there too, please God.
Wonderful.
And we had a lovely chat together last week. A very promising program it shapes up to be. So I'm not sure how St. Thomas might be depicted in icons. You see the lovely icon Ulrike gave us there, Róisín.
Beautiful, yes.
That the detail is beautiful, but it's limited. There's a kind of now Aoife will teach us a little bit better, but there's kind of limitations, I think, on how much they depict in icons. They're not meant to be kind of realistic portrayals, let's say. There's a certain etiquette in relation to them, but they draw you in. They're just so beautiful. And an icon is written rather than painted. I know that much at least.
Right.
And you remember the icon for the World Meeting of Families came to us that time a few years ago?
Yes,
With the two doors
beautiful,
on it.
yes.
And on each door were the two angels, St. Michael and St. Gabriel, guarding the house as it were and opening up. And you two beautiful scenes depicted. One was the wedding feast of Cana, and the other was the raising of Jairus' daughter last Sunday's Gospel. And just something that kind of draws you in, and there's something mystical about icons, so not sure how Thomas is surely in that one. It's the Pentecost ones one I'm looking at. In fact, if you look on your Radio Maria calendar, the same, we took a little snapshot of it and placed it in the calendar for you. It's in the month of May. It is. You see it in there. Have a closer look. See if you can find Thomas, and tell me where he is. Which one is he? And I wonder, is he depicted as doubting? Has he a worried look on his face?
Very good.
I don't know. Have a look and tell me if is he in the front row or the back row? Is he from the left or from the right? And tell me if you can spot him for me. It'd be very interesting. Our Lady's in the centre and the 12 apostles. Matthias, I suppose, would be the 12th apostle in
because,
there.
the one who let him down was not there, Father.
Judas. Oh no, I'm sure Judas had hanged himself.
Yes.
A happy ending there. So Matthias was elected instead. So I suppose whichever one is the shiny new looking face there, maybe one of the younger ones. You'd imagine St. John would be quite young. Peter, I suspect, would be elderly enough.
Oh, there at the front, Father. You can see the grey-haired man.
You'd imagine,
there, yes.
Probably Peter and James. Peter, James and John, I suspect, would be in the front row, possibly. But it's interesting, the man to Our Lady's right is kind of looking away. He's sort of having a chat with the guy on his left. It doesn't seem to, he's not too pushed about the posing for the icon.
That's true, Father.
So these things are lovely, and that's what I mean. You can get drawn into the image and start to speculate a bit, and what's going on in the heads, and what about the faces, and what are they, and how are they depicted, and what elements are associated with them. You know the way St. Peter would hold the keys?
Oh, yes.
And you know what St. Paul has in his hand, usually?
No, you tell me, Father.
Oh, don't know? I'm wielding it here.
It's not a paintbrush, is it?
No. No, actually that'd be Luke. Luke, if he was there, Luke would be the painter. No, a sword. It's the sword of the Spirit.
Yes.
The Spirit. What is it? The Word of God is alive and active. It cuts more finely than any double-edged sword.
Yes.
Although I think that's in the letter to the Hebrews. At any rate, the sword of the Spirit, and of course he died by the sword.
He did.
So you can usually tell, but St. Thomas, again, there's a quiz question. I actually don't know the answer, so if you drop a note here on Facebook and YouTube and just let us know, or send us in a text message as well. We'd like to hear from you. So he just mentions about the art here in this book here about the saints, and it's the most usual representation is his incredulity, but he's also depicted as one of the 12 holding the spear or the lance with which he was martyred. I'm looking over at our icon here now, and there's no spear or lance there. There's no room for much in the way of extra things they might be holding. That's interesting now. He is spear. So I actually didn't know that that's how he was martyred in India by tradition. Various writings, such as the Acts of Thomas, the Apocalypse of Thomas, and the Gospel of Thomas, and the Infancy Gospel of Thomas are all apocryphal. And there's a fine word to learn. Today's word, actually, is it 9 letters? Be perfect for one of these quiz shows. Count on one of these things, or one of these, words with mixed up letters. What do they call those? That you have to figure it out. Apocryphal. There's a lot of consonants in there. Apocryphal means that they were kind of over and beyond the agreed number of books of the Bible. So there's a letter to Barnabas, I think, is another one. They had all these sort of extra letters, and they had to sit down on a table, I suppose, and say, well, this one is in, and that one's out, and this one. So the apocryphal ones were in circulation at the time, but they didn't make it into the Bible. So you have a Gospel of Thomas. How about that? And you have Apocalypse of Thomas. There you go. So they date back to the 2nd to the 4th centuries. So there's heresy in some of those by all accounts, so they were turfed out. So who knows actually wrote them? Unlikely.
Yes, that's someone else could have added on things to the Father, couldn't they?
So, anyways, he is apparently the patron of architects. He's said to have built a palace for an Indian king. Didn't know that either. He's sometimes represented with a builder's T-square. Actually, I think that's wrong. A T-square is, I'm being the engineer, I'm being pedantic now.
Right, now.
A T-square is, well, you would use it on a drawing board. Typically, if it's a builder, he's thinking, or somebody like that, somebody who's out on the site, he'd have a tri-square. And a tri-square is something that measures right angles.
Right.
A T-square is something that you use for drafting and drawing. Anyways, we'll let him off that because he's a historian. So, but anyway, St. Thomas super holding a T-square. Interesting. So, and didn't know he built a palace either. So, a patron saint of architects. So, who do we have as an architect? Fiona's husband,
Yes,
recently graduated as a member of the Royal Institution of Architects of Ireland.
Right.
Marvellous. It's a huge achievement, a marvellous thing.
That's fantastic.
And so, Thomas is his patron saint. Let's remind Fiona of that now. Anything else here? So, because of his earlier spiritual blindness, he was invoked for sufferers from physical blindness. How about that?
Oh, very good.
Because obviously spiritual blindness is far worse than physical. In other words, not having faith. Far greater to have the eyes of faith than the physical eyes. So St. Thomas, there you are. So very good. I'll leave it there. I think there's only other little few bits and pieces in that little rebuke there, my Oxford Dictionary of Saints. So very good. Nice little resource. It has some nice little bits and pieces in it. And he's kind of strict about his history. I kind of like him for that reason. It's not too exaggerated or Fionn McCoolish, that kind of legend stuff. Good. Our time has marched on. We'll have a little piece of music. Eva's kindly looking after us at the mixing desk. So now we do want to hear from you. Please do text us. Please do email us. Please do drop a comment. Like, share and follow. Sharing is good as well. Sharing is caring. It helps our social media platform. So do please drop a comment here on the Facebook page. Even after it's gone not live anymore, we still like to read them back and give you a thumbs up and share them as well too. So 089 467 2000. 089 467 2000 is the text and WhatsApp number. Again, if you're in the north of Ireland or outside of the island of Ireland, please do add a +353 89 467 2000. And our telephone number is
014123456.
There you are. Ascuilga. We'll shake it, Ascuilga.
Yeah.
Annoy the hay.
Annoy the hay. A do, no, a caher. A hay, a do, three, a caher, good, the shay.
There you are, go huntach. Maha calling. Up to the front of the class now there. So good.
Neil Lawn gave there a do.
Oh, top you're on, you know. No, you're doing all right now. You're coming on all the time. So do please write to us, please, as well. We're here at St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. Now, Gohuntach, our Father, we have a song lined up for you. It's Jesus the Lord is Called by a Jesuit priest, Rock O'Connor. So thank you, Eva.
Lovely.
a lovely piece of music. Nicely chosen. Thanks, Eva, for that. Very nice. So Father Rock O'Connor there. So good. Welcome back to Radio Ireland. Thanks for coming. I'm not sure if you were able to hear much of that now on Facebook or YouTube, but you can always look it up or Google it or Facebook or YouTube it and all those other things afterwards as well if you want to track that down. Jesus the Lord by Rock O'Connor. Nice to hear from Tony and Anne, and there's a couple we should get back on the radio again, and Clive and Kathy actually as well. Remember Róisín Retrouvaille, remember those couples speaking about marriages going through serious difficulties, and they help to rediscover the kind of the original relationship they enjoyed. So you look for prayers. There's 22 couples attending part 1 of their virtual Retrouvaille program. That's a large number of couples. And I suppose the lockdown and all these other things have brought to light a lot of stress
trouble,
in homes. So delighted to see that. The big uptake there. It's good to see. And the post sessions they have, so it's not just a kind of a one-off journey, if you like, the couple of days of the kind of retreat, you might call it, I suppose. And talks and so on, but they followed up with follow-up sessions, and couples who have attended the Retrouvaille program attend the post sessions, as they call them, as well, and they say we usually attend ourselves. Very valuable, and Tony are saying is ongoing help for married couples there, so those are good prayers for that. So, and Clive and Kathy actually were in touch some time ago with, I know Clive and Kathy from, they're near Culture there in Cork, one of the parishes I was in back in the day, and just a lovely couple. I was around to their house as well, and they have their own fabulous story to tell. They were actually on air with us, I think, before too, but we must get them back on. We should have a regular slot, I'm thinking, really, for...
That's wonderful, yes, because I mean, this day and age, Father, it's really hard for couples trying with the virus and the children, you know, confined to barracks. It's really hard.
And everything else to try to keep a relationship going, you know, and all these things. It's not so easy to go out for an evening meal now together, even, or cinema or whatever you might be going out for. It's walks, I suppose.
Yes, that's it, you know.
Taking the dog for a walk and that. So thanks, nice to hear from Tony and Anne there. They're great supporters of the radio here as well. So very good. The Pope has actually been talking about this. This is his prayer intention for the month, actually, for July, now that we're in a new month, Róisín, which is the idea of dialogue and friendship. Somebody texted and said today is World Thank You Day. And I hadn't heard about that. Nobody told me. And it seems to be a little bit kind of, hang on, it's like, isn't every day a thank you day? Like, why do we need a World Day of that? Anyway, it's no harm to remind us. So the Pope's reminding us about his intentions about social friendship is the short version of it, that in social, economic and political situations of conflict, Retrouvaille again, it kind of tries to confront conflict there gently, that we be courageous and passionate architects of dialogue and friendship. And the patron saint of architects is?
Who's it?
I just told you. We were talking about it for the last 20 minutes. He holds,
Thomas.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He's holding a tri-square. He's patron saint of architects. So we're to be architects of dialogue and friendship against polarization and populism. That's the kind of popular mob belief. And so we were chatting about this at the UChat yesterday as well, or Chatechesis yesterday. If you want to listen back to yesterday's show, touched in on this too. So the Pope's encourages, I suppose, husbands and wives in the same way, where tensions build up and stresses kick in, and you know, this kind of friendship that has to be built upon all of the time, and emotions kind of have to be not squelched, but you know, put to one side.
Courage to go on, because really they're under so much trouble now, Father, with financial affairs and different things, you know, losing jobs and different things, you know, it's really hard.
It's tough, yeah, and I know that Retrouvaille specialise in this area of healthy listening, that you listen to your spouse without blowing a gasket, you know, and thinking of all of your grievances. Well, there's this, and what about this, and you know, something else, there's that too, to kind of hold on and listen gently to each other, to try to take steps back in the towards peace.
I go back to the way they felt for each other when they got married. They loved each other.
Correct. That restores some of that at any rate. So the Pope is asking for that kind of prayer, authentic social dialogue. So he says here it involves the ability to respect the other's point of view and to admit that it may include legitimate convictions and concerns.
Yes.
So, in other words, look, your spouse or your enemy or whoever it is driving you nuts, has something to say, and there may well be legitimate.
Yes, you're not right all the time.
Correct. And that's Christian charity, really. That's what the Lord would want us to do, certainly. So this is behind the Pope's prayer intention for this month of July, reaffirming that dialogue is a great opportunity to see reality in a new way, so we can live with passion, with conviction, the challenges we face in building the common good, so the good of all. So when a couple can work together like that in a stressful situation, it's for their good and their marriage, but it's good of their children and their home, which also has a knock-on effect on the community as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We begin to give time to others and build up. So this is exactly what the Pope is trying to help us understand. So these prayer intentions that we have each month are not just kind of random.
No, they're not, actually. He had a fantastic meeting there, Father, in Rome, that Pope Francis had, with all the different churches, the Catholic Christian churches in St. Peter's.
Wasn't that for St. Peter and Paul? You said you saw the Mass there. Was that what you're thinking of?
No, it wasn't the Mass. It was a gathering before, and then they all went down to the tomb of St. Peter, and then they all went to have a meeting. It was on EWTN one morning, yes.
So a kind of ecumenical kind of meeting?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. And it's kind of curious, isn't it, too, that, for all the different Christians, we'd at least have Peter in common as a figure. If you don't accept him as Pope, at least you'll have him as a figure.
Yes, so they all went down.
We happen to have his bones buried in St. Peter's, so, you're not going to find him anywhere else. So.
I thought it was wonderful that Pope Francis, what he's trying to do to reunite all Christians, wonderful.
Yeah, and this is exactly what he's saying here, that he says we've come from distant lands, we have different traditions, skin colour, languages, social backgrounds, we think differently and we celebrate our faith in a variety of rites, which is you're saying there, Róisín, but none of this makes us enemies. Instead, it is one of our greatest riches. So fair play to Pope Francis, just again reminding us, as a good father ought to, and a good pastor, look, attend to these things, continue making that good effort of supporting one another and growing together in faith as well. Now to finish, we have a few minutes left. She's looking at the watch there. It's like being in school, when's the bell gonna go? Can we get out of here?
I know, I'm really enjoying it, Father.
Just don't give me too much homework. No, a small little bit of Chatechesis now. We're chatting and studying, and we're working our way through, this massive book here, Róisín.
It's a lot there,
It's a bit meaty, all right. Chatechesis is the Vatican Council document we're reading, and we've got through a nice little chunk of it there. It's about missionary activity in the church there, and we're up at paragraph 16. And this is a nice, interesting one that actually I don't remember coming across myself before. But it's really the church. I'm not sure exactly how it sits in the middle of this document, but it's amazing what you'd find in these things. But the doctrine's gone on about priestly training, especially in the context of the missions, and how best to form young men to be leaders in the community to help the task of building and growing the faith. So it says that the general requirements for priestly training, both pastoral and practical, which have been laid down by the council, and that will be in the decree on the training of priests, must be accompanied with the desire to face up to the particular nation's own way of thinking and acting. We kind of do that in Radio Maria. There's an Irishness about what we do that just can't be replicated anywhere else. Just as it's true indeed in other radios, the very same. So the Ceola is crack on a Saturday.
It's coming.
Can't get more Irish than that, really. Sorry now about the frog. So the minds of students must be opened and refined so that they will better understand and appreciate the culture of their own people. So we're opening minds with hopefully with a small smatterine of Gaelga and the lovely prayers and so on that we have. In philosophy and theology, they should examine the relationship between the traditions and religion of their homeland and Christianity. So it's a fine way of just deepening our faith in the light of our heritage too. And in the same way, priestly formation must take account of the pastoral needs of the region. So, there's different needs, I suppose, different areas
things
too.
going on in different areas.
And students must learn the history, goal and method of missionary activity, as well as the peculiar social and economic and cultural conditions of their own people. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You have to just live in the environment. How do the people that have all they traditionally done things and bring the Christianity into that without supplanting it, really. They should be formed in the spirit of ecumenism. You were just talking about that now yourself, Róisín, and properly prepared for fraternal dialogue with non-Christians. So that's being missionary, and like Pope Francis is doing just that. So that's good to do that. And all this demands, as far as possible, studies for the priesthood should be undertaken in close contact with the way of life of their own people. And care must be taken to train them in proper ecclesiastical and financial administration. So if you're going to be a missionary, you're going to be in charge of a large area or group, well, you got to know what you're doing and what you're about. I can't say we got much in the way of financial training in the seminary. I had it before I went in, so that helps. You kind of learn on the job a little bit too.
I'd say so, Father.
So suitable priests then should be selected who, after a period of pastoral work, would pursue higher studies. That's an interesting sentence because the expectation is to do a bit of work in the parish, get your sleeves rolled up, get stuck in, get rooted in your people, and then head off and do some further studies, if that's your gift. Especially in Rome, it suggests, and at other institutes of learning. As members of the local clergy then, when they come back home, with their learning and experience, they should be a great asset to these young churches, missions particularly, in discharging the more difficult ecclesiastical duties. So it's kind of what is expected in the workplace of professional employees, now that you would continue your professional development, you would get the right formation for the task at hand, and that you would thereby become responsible and become a leader in your particular environment and direct people. And all of that then is missionary.
But it is really hard, Father, because priests do such great work, and then they have to be up on top of all the different sacrileges and different things that happen and don't happen,
There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff. Yes, a kind of multifaceted. Again, I suppose like any worldly profession, there's a lot of things going on all the time, and developments all the time, and keeping abreast of these things. So that's just a small little soundbite, little mouthful from Chatechesis to show that these documents are quite accessible, and they make a lot of sense too. Now, time check there, Róisín. I think it's winding down to an end. The bell is about to go.
I think so,
The students are packing their bags and they're kind of shuffling, and it's time to bring the class to an end. Get out.
Oh, great. The time is up. We can go home.
That's it. Head out for lunch. So very good. Thanks for your company with us, and thanks to everybody on social media as well for joining us today. It's 12 o'clock now. We'll pause for our Angelus and midday prayer. Now you can take this off now, Róisín, there.